Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ngozi and today is a really exciting day. I have been married for 19 years today. So it's my anniversary. 19 years. It's really exciting. It just feels like it went by in a blink, I promise. And it's the life that I've known for so long. So, you have people say to you, well, 19 years, what's it like being married to the same person for 19 years? And it doesn't feel that way. It just feels like my life as I know it. It's like asking, what does it feel like to be in my body for the past 19 years? It's been that kind of a journey with my amazing husband, I promise you. It doesn't mean it's been perfect. Do you understand? It really doesn't mean it's been perfect. And that's the thing about this world today. For something to be good, it appears it has to be free of complications. And that isn't true. That isn't true at all. So 20 years ago, I met my husband, and this is how it happened. It was Christmas, okay? And I was like any other young woman living in the city of London. I was single. I was dating, but I was single, properly single. I would just go out because I was forced to. When I say forced to, I mean it was just weird. If someone was nice to me and said, hey, would you like to go out for a drink? I would, but I knew that I wasn't interested, and that was the thing. Now, what kind of person was I when it came to marriage? What was I thinking about marriage? Did I want to get married? I knew people in my circle that, found it really important to get married. I wasn't one of those girls who was like, maybe independent. I'm independent. I don't need a man. No, that wasn't who I was. However, I didn't think it was important. It just wasn't on the register for me. It just wasn't on the register. In the first video I uploaded on the channel, I had told the story of how I grew up in a household where my father beat my mum. So right out the gate, you can understand that living in an environment like that, and even where siblings would fight each other and you'd be afraid, and growing up with that anxiety and just that viciousness on some level, I didn't think that where I would be in the future would be that. Do you understand? So it wasn't something I was looking forward to. I thought that was marriage, Having your mum crying in the corner, having your parents argue, then they're getting along, then they're not. And just the physical abuse in homes called discipline, all that stuff, that environment wasn't something I was aspiring to. You understand? So I grew up just blank on the subject. It wasn't a thing. I was just blank, So anyway, that was the state of mind I was in as a single girl. I enjoyed dating, but I had no serious relationship, so to say. Now I had come through to Christmas that year, and it was going to be one of those Christmases again where if you're alone in this country, like you don't have a family, your mom, your dad, and your brothers and your sisters living here, then you're going to end up alone, because Christmas is a time for family to hang out. And that's really the fact. If you live out here without your family, then you're going to be alone, because come that day, that best friend of yours, that boyfriend, that group of friends, they're all going to be with their families, and you'll be the odd one out. You're not going to be invited. It's a family affair. So I was that loner whenever Christmas came around. So it was a typical year just like that, and I decided I was going to throw a Christmas party. I didn't want to be on my own again that Christmas. I just thought it'd be a good idea to throw a Christmas party and invite individuals who were exactly like me, from the church, from my friend group, from my school group, at university, and so on. I had said to a number of my friends and my brother, who also lived out here in the UK, that they were invited to the loners party and they can invite a friend who's exactly like us. So we all get to hang out and have a bash. I put up this amazing Christmas tree, and under the tree I put gifts for males and females. So this sort of box would go under the tree for my female guests, okay? A bit pinky, a bit girly. And this sort of box went under the tree for male guests. I didn't know how many people I was expecting. I just knew that I wanted them to have the full experience of Christmas as if they were in a family on that day. And then I went all out with the cooking. Listen, I love cooking, and one of these days I'm going to do a video from my kitchen. I love cooking. I didn't have a family then, but I love the kitchen. I love to cook, bake, all of it. I would do it. So I thought to myself, what a great opportunity to go ahead, put some lovely food together and make sure everyone had a blast and had more than enough to eat. And if you wanted to take food home, then you could go ahead and do so. So I did that. And as it turned out, on the morning of Christmas, I wore a red dress. I had lots of Santa hats. So if you came into the house, I'd give you a Santa hat. And I had a Santa hat on and I had the red dress on. So I was looking cute. And they all started, rolling in, and I'd welcome you. I'd be rushing off into the kitchen, trying to sort out the cooking because things were still getting cooked. Things weren't out the oven. The doorbell would go again. I'll answer the door. And then the guests who had arrived would start answering the door. I said to them all, I said, listen, you're now part of the family. So when the doorbell goes, could you go get it, please? It was really nice. And I think at Christmas, people are nice. They're loving. They're a little bit more laid back. That spirit of Christmas, as it were, as they call it, it comes upon you and you're just all jolly and you're fun, isn't it? You feel like you know everybody. You've known me for a while or something of the sort. So yeah, one of the people who came through the door was my husband of 19 years today. And it happened to be that my brother had a friend, and that friend, she had a brother who had just come into the country. Now, my husband was born in Birmingham anyway, but just like me, born in North London, when we were little, we were taken back to Africa by our parents to learn the culture, to grow, and so on. And then we came back in our teen years to carry on life. But with my husband, it was the same thing. So he had just come back to the country to, kick off life in this part of the world. And he had nowhere to go. It was boring. It was cold. It was freezing cold for him, having come in from, West Africa. And nothing to do, really. You don't know anybody. So his sister said, oh, there's this friend of mine, whose sister's throwing a party Christmas. Do you want to come? And he was like, sure, absolutely. So he came. So it was one of those who came through the door and it's like, hello, hi, have a seat in there, blah, blah, blah. And that was it. The party started. We had an amazing time. Presents were given. We danced. We played games. And everyone loosened up. And it was just an amazing night. Just an amazing day that went on into the night. And finally, everyone had to go. Everyone had to go. Everyone then started asking for my phone number. Oh, can I have your number? You're so amazing. Thank you so much. You've just made our day. You're so kind, blah, blah, blah. Thank you for the gift. And yeah, I was giving out my number and, my husband took my number. Now, after the party, over the next few days, I had a lot of people texting and saying, thank you. You were so kind. I had a great time. So those texts gradually began to die down. And my husband's texts kept coming through. I had a good time. You're very kind. You were quite nice to have given us such a lovely treat. And I thought, okay, this guest is lingering on. So eventually he sent a text the following week, because this was over the first week of meeting at my party, okay? He then sent a text and said, why aren't you answering my calls? And I thought, oh, okay, he wants a reply. So I replied and I said, oh, well, hi, how is everything? And then we began talking. He was speaking on how he just come to the United Kingdom and it's just been, hard. It's cold. He doesn't get it. It's like, oh, and so on. And so I went into helper mode. I had worked in the job center before, so I just went into the facts of what you need to do. Here's what you've got to do. Have you tried this? Have you done that? Have you sorted this out? Have you sorted the other one out? Because I was doing that as an advisor back then in the job center. So I went into that mode and, sort of thought, okay, this is a friend and I'm going to do what I can to assist you and support you while you're here as a new person. But that's not what he wanted. Eventually, within the 2-week mark, he said to me, listen, is it a surprise to you that I love you and I want to marry you? I thought, wow, this was 2 weeks. 2 weeks. I'd love to marry you. I thought, you don't know me that well. What makes you think you'd want to marry me? And he said, yes, I do. You know what I want? I want to marry you. And I said, wow, okay. He was nice. I thought, wow, but 2 weeks. And this is the important part of the story. If a man knows what he wants, he's going to go for it. My sisters out there, if a man knows what he wants, sees what he wants, he's going to go for it. He doesn't need to hang around you for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. No, he doesn't. He also doesn't need to try out the goods in the bedroom before he marries you. And this is true. I said he doesn't have to. If he did, you did whatever you wanted to do and still got married and lived happily ever after, that's great. But I'm saying it doesn't have to happen. Oh, don't get me started. So within 2 weeks, he said this to me. And then I said, okay, here's what's going to happen, because my dad was in the country at the time, but he was working really long shifts in Peterborough, in Oxford. He was never in one place. And at Christmas, his job would take him away. So that's why I didn't have a family to sort of hang around with. Okay. And so I said to him, okay, before you meet my father, because we're very traditional, before you ask for my hand in marriage, you know, from my dad, I would like to get to know you for 6 months. Let's get to know each other. And then as soon as 6 months is up, I'd say yes or no. And he said, okay. And that's how we started dating. So he was on it. We would hang out. I'd get on a bus, go see him. He'd get on a bus, come see me, and then I'll escort him back by taking the bus to the next bus he's going to take. We were inseparable. And I think in the first 3 weeks, because I think this was the 3rd week, I'd said yes in 2 weeks. And by the 3rd week, when it was sort of like, let's start hanging out, he called me one night. We're always on the phone, always on the phone. He called me one night and he said to me, listen, I just wanted to get this out of the way. I said, what's that? And he said, I'm never going to touch you until we're married. You guys, I was like, wow. Just wow, right? I tell you why. Because whenever I did think of being married, I had said in my prayers to God, I needed him to be God-fearing. I didn't want him to touch me before we were married. And I would marry anyone from any race, from any tribe. It didn't really matter. I dated black, white, Indian. I dated them all. And I said, it didn't matter where he came from, but I would like for the individual to have come from my place of origin. However, if he didn't, no problem at all. That was at the bottom of the list. I just knew that I wanted him to fear God, and I didn't want him to touch me until we were married. Now, the aspect of him being from my culture was just sort of like for the ease of the matter. I didn't want to have to deal with a culture shock. I didn't want to have to deal with learning a new culture. I didn't want to have to deal with you not understanding my mannerisms or some of my joke styles and patterns, and just basically generally how I am. If you get that out the way, half the job is done, and then we can get on to other problems anyway, because marriage comes with a full bag. So yes, I had already said to myself, those are the 3 things, and he ticked the boxes. He was a Christian. He feared God. That was to be found out. But, you know, the mere fact he's saying he didn't even want to touch me until we were married. He was from a country that I had come from. that made me really pleased. I also didn't have to worry as to whether he was trying to get married to me for documentation, right? Because I've had individuals who want to get married, and because I'm a British citizen, then they want to get married. But really, it's because they want that documentation so they can be legal in the country and, advance, as the case may be. And that's the case for many people. Marriage out here is really tricky. Marriage out here is quite complicated in that way. You never really know what someone's up to when they come along. And that's the case. In my case, that was no longer an issue. And even in his side of the family, they were concerned that, why are you getting married so quick? Maybe she wants papers or something. And he was like, no, she's a British citizen. She was born in North London. Same. I was like, he's a British citizen. He was born in Birmingham. There was no problem there. And that's how that was all resolved. And so when he said that to me, that he wouldn't touch me, it kind of like gave me the signal that this is what I was looking for. However, one thing I'd like to say to you is, I've always known, I don't know why, and maybe it's because of how I was raised with that watching a problematic marriage, but I thought, it's important when you buy a vehicle to test it out on the highway, to really push the engines. And I wanted to be sure that if he saw the worst of me, he would still stick around. The other side of it was, I was afraid to be married in the first place anyway. So I thought if I behaved anyhow I wanted to, or just not mean or nasty, but if I just really was myself, then I stand a high chance of knowing how he's going to conduct himself when I am, those persons. All five of me. And I did. We had the worst arguments in those 6 months. We had, such annoying, subjects arise, and this is something I want to tell a lot of you, a lot of young ladies out there, a lot of young girls out there, that when you're dating, it isn't the time to impress anybody. It really isn't the time to impress anyone. It is the time to really show who you are. The issue of sleeping with a man before being married is entirely your business. But you could get distracted and have a very high body count, You could keep your legs open all day, and men will come and go. And when the time comes, you're going to walk into a supermarket with your family and see almost everyone in there is someone you slept with. And that's no good. That isn't a way to find your partner. So if that's what you want to do, that is entirely your business. But it really makes no sense. I've heard people say, well, what if you're not compatible? Compatible with what? A sexual organ? You can't be serious. That is a lie the devil has told you so that you keep your legs open 24/7. And just like I said a minute and a half ago, so that when the time comes, you won't be able to go through an entire street without seeing at least 10 to 15 people that you've slept with. It's not okay. It's a ploy of the enemy to keep your legs wide open. Close it, babies. Close it. Compatible? No. Sex is not the real issue in marriage. You want to know if you're compatible, you need to start pushing the engines of their personality. You need to start pushing the engines of their, insecurities. There isn't enough time in the world to tell you what marriage really entails. Real marriage, not arrangements. Not business arrangements, real commitment to another soul, to blend, to gel, to raise children, and to move forward in life. There's a lot involved. Sex is a high point. It's the height. The pleasure after the work is done, and when the commitment is shown on a daily basis and you can see how hard each person's trying. And that's just, an aspect of it, but it's not it. So I pushed some limits. We had arguments. We broke up for a few hours. And then we were back together again, and here's one for an example. When you're dating, you might want to find out what your partner is into sexually. You want to find out. You want to ask questions. You don't want to have to get married and then realize he wants to do it in the eye or in your ear or something crazy, or he wants you to swing from the chandelier. You know, you don't want any of that. Have conversations. And you don't need to find that out by going and opening up your legs. You don't. I promise you, no, just stop it. Stop it. You don't. It's an excuse to be promiscuous. Listen, when you get older, you'll realize that you lied to yourself, and that's the worst kind of deception, the one where you deceive yourself. The world is a very small place. Every time you put your back down, that guy goes off. Eventually, you're going to walk into him in the street with your little girl or your little child or your husband. And as many as you have, you're going to run into them all, and you've just messed your life up. And let me tell you, the devil is here on this planet to make sure he ruins people's lives. So while you're young and free and doing certain things, you don't think about the future. That's not what you want to be doing. It's not what you want to be doing. And for those of you who might live together with a spouse for 3, 4, 5 years before you get married, there's no need for that. For one, you shouldn't really want to live with someone if they're not going to make that commitment to you. It's owed to you. Make that commitment. Why buy the cow when you can get the milk for free? You know, this is something you want to consider. This is what you want to consider. Anyway, in 6 months, I said yes, and he started the ball rolling. He spoke to, a senior person in his life, who then approached my dad, because in my culture, the man himself can't come to my father. The man himself has to come with a senior person who is of my dad's age. And he showed up, and they came as a group, and they met my father, and the process started. We started checking out his family back home in Africa. You know, we send representatives. We get to find out who you are. That's another thing for those of you out here who just go off and elope. Then tomorrow you find out his, brother is a serial killer. Now you have a problem with it. Well, is the sex working for you now? Is that going to take care of the matter? No, it's not. No, it's not. Okay? So we search, we dig. We're not going to find everything, but we dig. And his family will do the same thing. They'll try to find out whether, I was a stripper in Vegas, whether I was, I don't know. They're going to know. It's not what I say. It's what they find out. They're going to find out. If you've got any, we had to take tests. Do you have any sexually transmitted diseases? We do the thorough work. So after all that is out the way, and we've dug and found out all we need to know, we've gone ahead with it. So there's nothing like eloping. Okay, we do a lot of digging, and after we've done as much as we can, we leave the rest to God. And we went ahead. We got traditionally married in our country. We didn't go. It was in our absence. The rites were performed by both kindreds, and then we had our court wedding here, and on the 31st of January we got married. So exactly a year from when we met on Christmas Day, and we then got traditionally married exactly a year after that Christmas, and got married January the 31st. So I knew him from the moment I met him. We were married in the course of a year. Okay, well, thank you so very much for watching. I'll see you again soon in the next video. I'm going to be as regular as I can. It's a promise. It's something that I want to do full time, and will keep doing it. It's a very exciting journey for me, and I'm happy for you to come along. Thank you so very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon in the next video. Take care. Bye.